Diplomatic ties between South Africa and Israel continue to be strained as the two countries expelled each other's envoys. Shortly on Friday, after DIRCO announced the expulsion of Israeli diplomat Ariel Seidman, Israel reacted by declaring South Africa's senior diplomat Shaun Byneveldt persona non grata and gave him 72 hours to leave the country. Seidman is charged with repeatedly using official Israeli social media platforms to insult President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as deliberately failing to inform DIRCO of visits by senior Israeli officials to the country. A department says such actions represent a gross abuse of diplomatic privilege and undermine South Africa's sovereign authority. I'm now being joined by Israeli journalist Rolene Marks. I also have the chairperson of South Africa's Jewish Board of Directors, Danny Mofsowitz, joining us virtually as well. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Having us.
Thank you.
Let me start off with you, Rolene. Expelling South Africa's envoy, that was on. That's a reaction to what South Africa did. Was it really necessary?
Well, I think South Africa has taken an extremely hostile stance against the state of Israel, the Jewish state, even prior to the 7th of October. And it is absolutely confounding why South Africa decided, without telling the chargé d'affaires, in fact, he found out about the fact that he was being expelled from the country from the media, who door-stopped him when he returned from an event to his embassy in Pretoria. The South African government's Department of International Relations and Cooperations, DIRCO, said it was because of abuse of the diplomatic norms by insulting the president, and then also said they failed to inform the government of a visit to the Eastern Cape. Now, I spend quite a lot of time on social media. I see the embassy social media profiles, and I do not see any insults towards the president of South Africa. What I do see from the Israeli embassy in South Africa is outreach to a community in the Eastern Cape. This is a part of the country that faces drought, that has no water, that has no functioning infrastructure, that has hospitals that are falling apart. I see Israel reaching out the hand of friendship to these municipalities, to the communities, attending these places at the request of the king of the Abu Tembu to come and help the communities, because Israel is a global leader in water technology, in agricultural technology, and in healthcare. This is Israel trying to help the people of South Africa that the ANC have failed to help. And now, instead of maybe softening their approach to the Jewish state, have decided to expel the chargé d'affaires. I want to be clear, it wasn't an ambassador, it was the chargé d'affaires. And Israel in turn saying, well, if this is the type of treatment that our diplomats are going to face, we will do the same, and we will expel South Africa's ambassador to Ramallah.
We'll take a very short moment and go on a quick break. When we come back, Danny, I'll come to you. Is this something that couldn't have been sorted out over a conversation? Did we have to do expulsions on both sides? But we'll do that in a few moments. Please just stay on with us. Welcome back. I still have with me Israeli journalist Rolene Marks and the chairperson of the South Africa Jewish Board of Directors, Danny Mofsowitz. So, Danny, we've heard from Rolene talk about the things that led up to the chargé d'affaires being expelled from South Africa. But the question I wanted to ask is, was it really necessary for Israel to have responded the same way? I mean, wasn't it possible to have had a dialogue to sort these matters out?
So, firstly, thank you and good evening to your viewers. Our view on this issue between South Africa and Israel remains the same as it always has. The South African Jewish Board of Deputies, we've always called on the South African government to play a meaningful role in negotiating a peace in the region. Given South Africa's incredible history of peace and reconciliation, we've always pleaded with our government to take that route rather than the punitive measures that we've seen it taking. And further to this, South Africa particularly is becoming almost uniquely positioned as the ANC, who was our former government, have very openly friendly relationships with Hamas and can therefore reach out to them to broker some sort of peace. But instead, they've chosen to be punitive. Unfortunately, when it came to creating a peace plan, 25 nations, amongst them Malaysia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they were all invited to sit around a table in Egypt, and South Africa was left out. And as a South African, that's a very, very sad thing. It's been a very punitive approach rather than a constructive one. And it's very, very sad that South Africa has lost out on having a seat at that table. So South Africa has had a very punitive approach. And I suppose the knock-on effect is that Israel has retaliated. Unfortunately, the people who stand to lose here are South African citizens who are visiting Israel and Israeli citizens who are visiting South Africa. Unfortunately, not having a presence in either country hurts both of those citizens.
So between the two of you, we have just a few seconds here, 30 seconds each, if you can just split that out. What's the way forward? Let me start out with you, Rolene, and come back to you, Danny. What's the way forward?
Well, there's always a hope that cool heads will prevail and some kind of return to dialogue. I want to be clear that this is not what I'm seeing as representative of the entire South African government. I think when we speak about the government in South Africa, we have to remember that there are other parties as well that are very supportive of the state of Israel and are also very supportive of the incredible position that the state of Israel has to help, as they have with other countries in Africa, help South Africa deal with some of the challenges. And I agree with Danny, the government has taken a punitive approach instead of one of dialogue. There are elements within the South African government that has aligned with some of the most tyrannical regimes in the world. And we hope that in the future, the government will be more reflective of the people of South Africa, and we can see a return to dialogue, as Danny so correctly mentioned. It's part of the South African ethos. I know that from Israel's stance, we would be open, as we have said before, to any country that wants to engage in dialogue and in peace with us.
Danny?
I agree with Rolene. I think, post 7 October, it took the president of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, 7 days to condemn, not even to condemn the attack, but to acknowledge that there was an attack on Israel by Hamas. And we, even as a Jewish community here in South Africa, we've got to put that aside. We've got to move forward. And I think that all parties have to put their differences aside in the mission to get peace in that region. We've got to put aside our differences and work towards that common goal.
All right, thank you so much, Israeli journalist Rolene Marks and the Chairperson of South Africa Jewish Board of Directors, Danny Mofsowitz. Thank you so much for coming this.